Before humans existed, alien races were already exploring the universe. On the planet Samaras, Mills stood on the shore, watching his daughter Naveen play on the beach. She laughed as the waves lapped at her feet. Mills sat next to his wife, Aaliyah, and explained his decision to take on a 2-year exploration mission. It was longer than his usual trips, but the extra money could pay for a treatment Naveen desperately needed. As the sun dipped lower, Mills taught Naveen how to whistle using her hands. She struggled at first, but her joy when she succeeded filled the air. That night, Mills gently told Naveen about his trip, promising he'd come back soon. Sometime later, Mills was aboard a spaceship, piloting a crew in cryogenic sleep. He was used to these missions, but this one felt different. One day, while navigating deep space, the ship suddenly encountered a meteor shower. Large chunks of rock slammed into the hull, tearing the ship apart. Alarms blared as Mills sprinted to the cockpit, sending out a distress signal while trying to guide the ship to safety. The vessel broke apart in midair, and as Mills saw the inevitable crash coming, his thoughts flashed to Naveen, then darkness. When Mills woke up, the ship's computer reported they were in an unknown location. He groaned, feeling a sharp pain in his stomach, and realized a piece of metal was lodged in him. With gritted teeth, he pulled it out and used a heat tool to cauterize the wound. After catching his breath, he donned his astronaut suit and began assessing the damage. The cryo chambers were shattered, his crew lifeless. Devastated but cautious, Mills grabbed a laser gun and stepped outside. The world was unfamiliar, wild, and eerily quiet. As he waded through a shallow pool, a strange creature swam beneath the surface, watching him. The realization hit him like a punch. He was stranded. Worse, the escape pod was in the other half of the ship, which had landed somewhere far away. Mills sent another SOS message, his voice heavy with despair. Alone and hopeless, Mills contemplated ending it all. He raised his gun, but as his finger hovered over the trigger, memories of Naveen flooded his mind. Her laughter, her stubborn determination to whistle. Shaking, Mills lowered the gun. Instead, he played the recordings of Naveen's messages just to hear her voice again. Her early messages were cheerful and full of love, but as time passed, her tone changed. She was hurt and angry that he wasn't there. Mills's heart broke all over again. Suddenly, the computer detected a functional cryo capsule nearby. Mills rushed to the location and found a survivor, a young girl named Koa. He freed her and carried her back to the wreckage. On the way, he noticed something chilling. A massive paw print in the ground. The computer soon confirmed his worst fear. They had crash-landed on Earth. But this wasn't the Earth he knew. It was Earth from 65 million years ago. A world teeming with dinosaurs and other wildlife that wants to eat you uncooked. That night, Mills dreamt of Naveen, her face a haunting reminder of why he needed to survive. The next morning, he resolved to find the other half of the ship and get Koa to safety. However, scans couldn't locate the wreckage. Frustrated but determined, Mills ventured into the wilderness. He stumbled across the remains of a massive dinosaur, its bones a grim warning of the dangers ahead. A sudden geyser blast scorched him, adding to his growing list of injuries. Finally, he spotted something glinting on a distant mountain, the other half of the ship. His scanner confirmed it. Before Mills could plan his route, a small dinosaur attacked him. He fought it off, slamming it to the ground with his gun. As he caught his breath, he heard rustling nearby and realized Koa had left the safety of the ship. She ran as soon as she saw him, forcing Mills to chase after her. They tumbled down a ledge and landed near the carcass of a giant dinosaur. Before they could recover, the trees began to shake. A massive predator emerged, its eyes fixed on them. Mills grabbed Koa and bolted, barely making it back to the ship. Once inside, he treated a wound she'd gotten during their fall. He tried to explain their situation, but Koa didn't understand. She spoke a different language. Desperate to communicate, Mills used red powder to draw a map on a tablet. He showed her the mountain where the pod was and motioned that they needed to go there. Koa hesitated, but eventually nodded. To comfort her, Mills lied, telling her that her family was waiting for her there. Later, Koa stumbled upon Naveen's recordings. She watched them all, piecing together the story of Mills's life. As the messages played, it became clear Naveen's condition had worsened during his absence. Mills found Koa watching and quickly turned them off, avoiding her questioning gaze. With supplies packed, Mills and Koa set out. The trek was grueling. Every noise in the jungle made Mills grip his weapon tighter. As they walked, Koa began to trust him. When she tripped or grew tired, he was there to help. One afternoon, Koa spotted something glowing red in the sky but kept quiet. Bored of walking, Koa started throwing berries at Mills. Annoyed, he scanned the berries, proving they were poisonous. His warning barely deterred her mischievous grin. Later, a giant insect landed on Mills's neck. When he swatted it, its sticky goo clung to his fingers. As he tried to clean it off, he stumbled, making Koa laugh for the first time. In retaliation, he pretended to chase her with his sticky hand, but their laughter ended abruptly when a small tree fell nearby. The noise led them to a dinosaur trapped in a sticky pit. Koa felt sorry for the creature and insisted on helping it. Mills protested but eventually gave in. Together, they freed the dinosaur, but it didn't get far. Predators pounced on it, tearing it apart. Mills pulled Koa into a hiding spot, shielding her from the gruesome scene. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the harshness of their world. Mills and Koa continued their journey, stopping by a peaceful waterfall to wash up and refill their water bottle. Mills couldn't ignore the pain in his stomach wound, but watching Koa happily explore reminded him of his daughter Naveen. That memory gave him the strength to keep moving. While Koa found some colorful flowers, she insisted on putting one in Mills's hair, making him chuckle despite himself. As they prepared to leave, Mills's scanner lost track of the mountain they were heading toward. Desperate for a clearer view, he decided to climb a tree and rescan the area. Up in the branches, a bug crawled onto his hand, and as Mills shook it off, the branch snapped beneath him. He fell hard, dislocating his arm. Gritting his teeth in pain, he leaned against a tree as Koa helped push his arm back into place. When that didn't work, Mills told her to step on his arm to give it the final push. The bone popped back. Just as the noise drew the attention of a pack of dinosaurs, Mills grabbed his gun and ordered Koa to run. As she fled, he activated small bombs that killed half the pack, but the remaining dinosaurs charged at him. Mills stood his ground, firing until they fell one by one. Meanwhile, Koa found herself cornered by flying dinosaurs and scrambled to hide behind a tree. Just when it seemed she was trapped, Mills arrived and shot the creatures, saving her. But one sly dinosaur snuck up from behind and grabbed Koa with its tail. Mills quickly chased after them, firing his gun to scare the beast off. Although Koa was safe, the terrifying encounter left her shaken. She refused to go near Mills, so he gave her space. As night fell, Mills tried a trick he used with Naveen, whistling a soothing tune. It worked, and Koa responded with her family's own whistle, signaling she was ready to move on. The pair reached a cave to spend the night. Mills set up sensors to warn them of danger and used his scanner to check the sky. That's when he realized the meteorite they had seen earlier was just a fragment of a much larger one heading straight for Earth. The realization was chilling, but Koa interrupted his thoughts by pulling out one of Naveen's tapes. At first, Mills was angry that she had taken it, but eventually, he played it. The sound of Naveen's voice brought comfort to both of them, even as it stirred painful memories for Mills. Later that night, Mills was jolted awake by the sensors going off. He discovered a bug crawling into Koa's mouth and used a tool to kill it, helping her cough out the remains. But the sensors continued to blare and a massive dinosaur appeared outside the cave. Mills fired at it and told Koa to run as they squeezed through a narrow hole at the back of the cave. Unbeknownst to them, a smaller dinosaur began following. After hours of walking through tight spaces, they hit a dead end. Mills tried to dig a way out, but made little progress. Frustrated, he gave up. But Koa insisted on trying again. She kept saying, "Family," refusing to abandon hope. Mills tried to explain her family was gone, but she didn't understand. Inspired, Mills used the last of his bombs to widen the hole enough for Koa to crawl through. She confirmed it was safe on the other side, but when Mills tried to follow, the tunnel collapsed. Separated, Mills yelled in frustration as the dinosaur drew closer. He used his scanner to locate it and prepared for a fight. When the beast lunged at him, Mills anticipated the attack and fired. But the dinosaur knocked the gun away and bit his arm. Struggling to escape, Mills activated his scanner's screeching sound, disorienting the creature. He retrieved his weapon and finally killed it. Meanwhile, Koa explored the forest alone and found a large bone. She wrapped it with poisonous berries and leaves, turning it into a makeshift weapon. Mills eventually emerged from the cave and used his scanner to discover the massive meteorite was only hours away. He rushed to find Koa, hearing her scream as a dinosaur approached. Koa hid inside a hollow tree trunk as the beast prowled nearby. Mills sprinted to save her but fell into quicksand. Unable to move, he called out to Koa, who overcame her fear to confront the dinosaur. She threw bombs at it, killing the beast before rushing to help Mills. Using a tree branch, she pulled him out of the quicksand and they hugged tightly, relieved to be alive. At last, they reached the mountain's base. Mills tied a rope around Koa and helped her climb first. Koa cleverly secured the rope to make it safe for Mills to follow. They found the other half of their ship, and Mills quickly turned on the computer. Relief washed over him as he confirmed a rescue vessel was on its way. While Mills worked, Koa searched for her family and found the cryotanks all destroyed. Devastated, she cried and lashed out at Mills for lying. Mills, overwhelmed with guilt, pulled out a picture of Naveen and explained how he had lost her while on a job. He vowed not to let Koa meet the same fate. His apology earned him a tearful hug from Koa. Suddenly, pieces of the meteorite began falling, forcing the duo to rush to the emergency pod. As Mills prepared to launch, a piece of debris struck the ship, sending it tumbling down the mountain. The crash knocked them both unconscious. Koa woke up first and pressed the launch button, but the computer warned the pod was misaligned. As Mills stirred awake, a massive dinosaur attacked the pod. With the gun outside, Mills braved the danger to retrieve it, only to find it malfunctioning. He hid behind the wreckage to fix it, but the dinosaurs surrounded him. Thinking quickly, Koa played Naveen's tape on the scanner, creating a hologram. The dinosaurs attacked the projection, giving Mills the chance to shoot one. The other dinosaur, however, pushed the pod in its fury, aligning it perfectly for launch. Mills killed the second dinosaur but was interrupted by the return of an earlier beast. Mills ran to the geysers, luring the dinosaur into a blast of scalding water, but it wasn't enough to stop it. At that moment, Koa appeared and stabbed the creature in the eye with her poisoned bone. The dinosaur stumbled onto another geyser, which blasted its stomach, killing it. Exhausted but determined, Mills and Koa returned to the pod and launched just as the meteorite struck Earth, triggering the extinction event. As they left the atmosphere, the autopilot guided them toward the rescue vessel. Relieved, Mills closed his eyes, imagining he would see Naveen again. Koa held his hand, offering silent comfort as they journeyed toward a new beginning. And a new beginning of a fresh movie recap awaits if you click on the recommendations on the right next. Subscribe and drop a like to return for future recaps. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.